All right, it's been 2 weeks since LSU last played a football game, and I think we can all agree we are really missing it right about now. It's the middle of January. Things are crazy. It's so hard to keep up. Every time you open social media, somebody new is transferring. Some new coach has been hired. So what I'm going to do for you in the next couple minutes or so is reset LSU's roster. We're going to start with the offense. I'll do the defense at a later date. What are the position groups looking like? What is the coaching staff looking like? Just to give you kind of a catching up, if you will, from the past 2 weeks because it's been crazy. LSU's hiring new coaches. They're firing coaches. They're losing players to the portal. They're getting players from the portal. So I love following all this stuff, but even for me, it can be a little bit overwhelming because if I'm out for a day and I leave my phone at home, what has happened? Everything could be, on fire the next time you come back and check your phone. So here's what's been going on. Here's how we're looking in January heading into spring practice and next season for LSU football. So we'll start with the quarterback. I think this one might be the easiest of all the position groups to predict and see, what it's going to look like in the future. Before, you go back a couple weeks, maybe it wasn't so easy, but after seeing the bowl game, before that bowl game, I had questions about what Garrett Nussmeier could be a quarterback. After the bowl game, I don't really have those questions anymore. That was kind of his tryout to be the quarterback one, at least going into spring practice, and I think he knocked it out of the park. Garrett Nussmeier, the ReliaQuest Bowl MVP, leading a comeback drive and the game-winning touchdown, will do that for you. 31 of 45, about 70% completion percentage, so he threw it a lot. He was deadly accurate for the most part. About 400 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 1 interception. So I think that was a really good debut in a situation where you haven't played the whole season, at least started the whole season, and there's a lot of rotating guys at running back, like Logan Diggs got injured early in the game. Malik Neighbors played until he got the record, then he stopped. So for him to still put up those numbers with all the inconsistencies, new offensive coordinators technically, because Joe Sloan and Cortez Hankton were doing the play calling, I think it was a really solid performance, and I think it's what we're going to see from Garrett Nussmeier more often than not next season. An accurate passer who can make all the throws on all the levels of a defense and maybe not put up the same explosive numbers that Jaden Daniels did. I mean, the guy won the Heisman. That doesn't happen every year, but be comparable to that. His backup will be A.J. Swan, it seems. Ricky Collins is in there too and some other guys, but Swan has started a handful of games in SEC play. Transferring in from Vanderbilt, he picked LSU over South Carolina. They're looking for a quarterback next year over there as well. So that kind of gives, I guess, credibility to the fact that this is a guy that people wanted out of the transfer portal. He's had a couple injuries that have kind of hindered his ability to have better seasons so far. He had a concussion 2 years ago, an elbow contusion from what I understand last year, so he didn't get to start and play most of the games. Not as good of a thrower, like 56% completion percentage in his career, 2,800 yards, 22 touchdowns, 9 picks, but he's got experience, and that's what you want in a backup quarterback. Like the NFL, they will go out and sign guys like Teddy Bridgewater, Tyrod Taylor, Jameis Winston, who have started games in the NFL, so if your starter goes down, they can come in and at least be competent and give you a chance to win. That's what you're getting in A.J. Swan, and maybe he'll compete for that starting job perhaps. At running back, it's kind of a 1A, 1B kind of thing because last year Logan Diggs was the guy all season, but they also had Josh Williams who could take some snaps, Armani Goodwin, Caleb Jackson, a different cast of characters. It's a lot of those guys are gone now, but who's back? Caleb Jackson, rising sophomore, played in a handful of games last year, 31 carries, 165 yards and 4 touchdowns. The numbers aren't going to wow you because there were only so many carries to be had. He was kind of third at times, if not fourth on that depth chart behind John Emery and some other guys. But when you watch him play last year, if you go back and watch some of the games, there are plays that will lead you to believe this guy could be a Doak Walker-esque winning type of running back in the future. Like when he plowed over that Mississippi State defender in the fourth quarter of that game, whatever it was in that game when he caught a pass there. That was awesome. That was trending on social media for days. And then he had a touchdown in the bowl game. So he's 6 foot, 225. He is a beast. This guy, I don't think he has a single percentage of body fat on him. And from what we've heard, he runs like Leonard Fournette. So that is very promising to hear about Caleb Jackson. I think he's in for a big season next year. But then you got Josh Williams, too. I talk about that 1A, 1B. The guy's going to be a sixth-year senior. all he's done is given you good production every time he's gone in the game. He had a touchdown against Alabama. This season he carried 55 times for about 300 yards, 5 touchdowns. Also caught 14 passes for about 200 yards. So he's produced. Former walk-on. It's a great story. He's a really good representative of the program. Definitely good to have a veteran presence in that backfield. If things are getting out of hand, he'll go in and hold things down at running back for you. And then you can kind of throw this guy in too if you want. Trey Holly. He had a good game against Army. 6 carries, 91 yards, and a touchdown. Just not enough carries, obviously, last year, but he played very well in high school. Highly regarded. Has the, I would say, mold to be a good running back, just kind of like Caleb Jackson. And he played well in the spring game. So anytime you hear about Trey Holly, all you hear about is bright future. So he might get a couple more opportunities next year as well. At receiver, it's a little bit more wide open because Neighbors is gone. Brian Thomas Jr. is gone. Jalen Brown is gone, the highly rated 4-star freshman that didn't play, I think, at all really last year. He transferred to Florida State. So who's back? Kyron Lacey, C.J. Daniels. Well, he's not back. He's transferring in. Chris Hilton's back. Aaron Anderson's back. Shelton Sampson's back. It's a lot of names. Lacey is the most proven commodity, I would say. 30 catches, 550 yards last year. That's 19 yards per catch and 7 touchdowns. Best season he's had yet in college at Louisiana Lafayette and LSU. He was returning because he wants to be the leader of this wide receiver core next year. He played behind Neighbors. He played behind Brian Thomas Jr., learned from them, still produced and put up great numbers, and really was the third option, I'd say, in the receiving game. Now he wants to be the go-to guy. He wants to take that jump from an auxiliary piece to the piece in this offense. He had 6 games last year with 3 or more receptions, so he was consistent. 6 catches for 95 yards in the bowl game. When Neighbors went to the sideline, Lacey stepped up, and he became that second guy behind Brian Thomas Jr. for Garrett Nussmeier. So he's proven that he's not just going to fade away when Neighbors and Thomas aren't there to take away all the attention of the defense. No, he's going to score, and he'll produce. He had 4 catches for 111 yards and a touchdown against Auburn way back in the beginning of the season when we were still kind of wondering what this offense was going to be. Like, he's shown at times he can be the guy that he is returning to be, and that's wide receiver 1. C.J. Daniels transferring in from Liberty. We've had this on our shows quite a bit this week. This is a really good pickup. 4-star transfer receiver. A lot of colleges wanted this guy to come in and be a receiver in their offense. He's 6'2", 200. He's got great frame. All the catches that I've seen and some of the highlights I've put together with him, he can really reach and catch passes all across the diameter. He's got long arms, great body control, a speedster, but also a possession receiver that'll catch a jump ball. 55 catches, over 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns last year with the Flames. That was an explosive offense. That was a Liberty team that won 13 games and went to the Fiesta Bowl. So that's definitely a great guy to bring in too. He's played in college for a couple years, coming off his best season. Now he wants to prove he could do it in the SEC and not just the Conference USA or whatever Liberty plays in. Chris Hilton's back. 13 catches, over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. Every so often, he'd just have a great big play. You know, he'd just step up like, oh, Chris Hilton's wide open downfield. Catch, touchdown. Catch, big game, big gain. Now can he do that game in, game out, and put up the numbers that Lacey did last year, like 3 catches here, 4 catches here? Can he parlay that into his best season? I was in LSU's practice facility a couple weeks ago for these high school all-star games. Who was in there while those high schoolers were practicing? Chris Hilton on the jugs machine, just catching passes with the trainers. So that kind of work ethic during bowl season when you've got an opportunity to show out in that bowl game, like, hey, look out for me in the spring, look out for me in the summer, I'll be back next year. I certainly was given a firsthand, witness to what that work ethic that Chris Hilton has is. And I think that's going to mean great things for him in the future. A couple more guys. Another transfer, Xavion Thomas from Mississippi State. Freshman All-American last year as a punt returner, but also 40 catches for 500 yards. So he's a proven guy. He's from around Louisiana. He's from around here, and I think he's going to make a great impact for this team next year. Aaron Anderson, transfer from Bama, New Orleans native. Didn't get the opportunities he probably thought he would last year, but it's hard. I mean, there's only so much food you can put out on the plates, right? You had so many good receivers last year. He just didn't have opportunities. But good thing is he's a younger guy, and those opportunities will come. And then, there's a whole potpourri of names you could throw in. Shelton Sampson and just different players like that were freshmen, young guys last year that maybe could pop in their second years. How about tight end? lot of stability here, I would say. Mason Taylor is back, 7 catches, 88 yards in that bowl game. It was kind of a down year for him because some games he would get 3 or 4 catches. Mason Taylor had a great game, right? But then other games, he just wasn't really in the game plan. And that's not maybe even his fault. Like, he was a great run blocker still and a great decoy and still someone that ran routes in the passing game. Just didn't get in the ball. And I think that's just kind of a byproduct of how Jaden Daniels plays football. Like, instead of going to that 3rd or 4th read maybe, and this is no slight on Jaden, it's just how he plays. Instead of looking for the tight end, maybe who's underneath on a drag or an in or something like that, he just takes off and runs. And obviously he gets a bigger gain than the check down would. I think with Nussmeier, we're going to see the tight end used more because Nussmeier likes to sit in the pocket, scan the field, go to 1, go to 2, go to 3, and maybe even down to his 4th read. And usually that's the tight end, and that would be Taylor. So I think next year, with a guy that's more pass happy and Garrett Nussmeier, Mason Taylor will get more production, more catches. If you want evidence, just look at the bowl game where he had 7 catches for 88 yards, as I said. That's just one game, the game where Nussmeier started for the one time all year. And then obviously you got Neighbors and BTJ gone, kind of the same point I made with the receivers. It's just going to be more opportunities for Taylor and those tight ends. And then Mac Markway's back. Saw him play a little bit. You probably don't know his name right now, but you will. Played in 12 games last season, special teams, run blocker, had a touchdown against Georgia State. He kind of plays like Taylor. I think he's going to be that next guy up. And then there's a really intriguing guy, Kamorian Pimpton is his name, 6'6", 242, tight end. Played in 8 games last year. Still a little raw, I think, but they'll find a role for him in this offense, if not next year, in the future. So those are your 3 tight ends. And then offensive line, there's really no question marks. I think this is the best offensive line coming back in the SEC, maybe even the country. Will Campbell returns, your stalwart left tackle who hardly ever allows any pressure on the quarterback, 26 career starts. Garrett Dellinger, left guard, 23 career starts. Miles Frazier, right guard, 37 career starts between time at LSU and Florida International. Emory Jones Jr., 24 career starts. How many is that? Do some quick math here. That's over 100 career starts almost. It might be. I'm not great at math on the spot. I think that's over 100 career starts on your offensive line returning. The only guy that's new is the center, DJ Chester, and as long as he can snap the ball well, they'll be fine. Like, he'll learn how to double team and run block and reach and get to the linebackers. He even played last year against Missouri when Charles Turner got injured there for a second. So 4 or 5 starters back, tons of experience. They know every trick in the book. They know the system down pat. That has got to be encouraging for Garrett Nussmeier. He's got that wall in front of him to protect him. And then for Caleb Jackson, Josh Williams, the running backs, hey, we got some experienced guys that know how to open some crevices for us. We just got to go make plays. How about the coaching staff? Still no offensive coordinator yet. Again, it was Cortez Hankton and Joe Sloan. Hankton's the wide receivers coach, was the passing game coordinator. Sloan was the quarterback's coach. They kind of co-opted in calling the plays in the bowl game, and it worked well. They put up 35 points. There was 1 turnover, I think, just on that Nussmeier pick that he threw, and you can't really blame the play callers for that. So, to me, that again, just like Nussmeier was a trial for him, it was a trial for those two, or at least one of them, to be the OC. And I've talked about this before, continuity. That's what led to the success for the offense last year. Players back, quarterback back, coaches back, same scheme with just tweaks and little things you fine-tune here and there. I think you keep this thing rolling, you keep it going, keep the coaching staff intact. You make Sloan the OC, you make Hankton the OC, maybe you make them co-OCs. One guy does the passing game, one guy does the run game, whatever. Keep those 2 on your staff. Keep the offensive coordinator in-house because you struck lightning in a bottle last year. Can you do it again this year? I think with continuity, you can. So the only question marks with this team right now seem to be wide receiver, who's going to step up and lead the way, and then I guess running back. Can somebody separate themselves from the pack? And then the last one would be that OC. But I don't really think that's a big of a question. I don't think you need to go outside of the walls of the LSU facility to get your OC. I think that guy or those people exist within those walls right now. So this LSU offense is not going to be as good as it was this year. It's just hard to do. You can't repeat number 1 scoring offenses year after year. But they're still going to be very good because a lot of players are back. And I hope, they keep that coaching staff as similar as possible to what it was this year. But I would be really excited about this LSU offense and what it could accomplish next season.